talk about domestic violence being a physical act of harm, but that is not the only form of domestic violence. Emotional abuse often comes in the form of lying, cheating, criticizing, shaming, humiliating, and/or controlling someone you're in a relationship with. My next guest is the author of the book called From Charm to Harm, The Guide to Spotting, Naming, and Stopping Emotional Abuse. Psychotherapist Amy Lewis-Bear is here with more on this. Thank you so much for coming in. We do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Unfortunately, you became an expert in this field not only through your career, but from your own personal experience.
I did have a personal experience with emotional abuse in my first marriage, but first let me put things in perspective before I talk about that. Emotional abuse is a pattern of psychological intimidation to gain control over another person for their own personal gain. And there are two types of emotional abuse. One is more like verbal abuse. It is obvious. It's yelling, shouting, humiliation, hostile criticism. We all can identify that. But there is another type of emotional abuse that's harder to recognize. And what that is it's manipulation. Psychological manipulation of your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and then blaming everything on you to create confusion and self-doubt.
What are the tactics that the perpetrator uses when it comes to this second type of emotional abuse, and one that is harder to recognize?
There are many tactics that are more subtle, and that's what I talk about in From Charm to Harm. It's overall, it's breaking down your self-esteem for better control. So it's discounting or ignoring your feelings, your needs, your opinions. It's distorting the truth. It's a lot of contradictions between words and actions. It's misleading your mate about your actions. It's a lot of...
Can you give me an example of something that somebody has done that would fall right into this category?
Yes, I think that, for instance, if you're having a so-called meaningful conversation to resolve an issue, and afterwards you don't feel like your partner hears you, is not listening to you, and you really, there's no, the issue does not get resolved, and that can be applied to so many different situations. It's not being able to resolve issues. Now, let me say, in healthy relationships, we all do and say things that we don't mean, but there is genuine remorse. There are attempts to improve behavior, and there, you can resolve the issue. But with emotional abuse, there's a pattern of intent. The abuser feels justified in their actions, and they rarely take responsibility.
I know through your practice you mentioned that a lot of the patients you see are women who have been on the receiving end of this type of emotional abuse, but women can be the perpetrators in many relationships as well.
Emotional abuse can happen between any two people. It happens in families, siblings, parent, child, friends, in the workplace. What I write about in my book is intimate relationships, because it's a special type of relationship. And you think that your partner has your best interest in mind, but they really, what often happens is they have a deep-seated need to control you because of their own insecurities, and this is all subconscious. They know what they're doing, but they don't know why.
That's got to be interesting to deal with.
Yes.
Let's talk about the hope that's out there, the help that's out there for people who you may be speaking to right now that are saying, she just described the relationship I'm in, I don't know what to do. Maybe you're married and have children and there is no option of leaving.
Yes, there are many ways that you can address the situation, and that's really what you have to do, because emotional abuse, living in this type of relationship, it breaks you down. It causes anxiety, depression. You start, coping in self-destructive ways like overeating, substance abuse, overspending. And so I'm here really to give a message of hope and help. First of all, be aware of what's going on in your relationship. Read books, know what you're up against. Second, accept that it's not going to change unless you face the issues and hold your mate accountable. And they have to overcome their core belief that it's okay to mistreat other people. And third, take action. Gather your family and friends. From Charm to Harm has 80 emotional abuse tactics. It spells them out, and also 30 effects of those tactics. You can take the book to friends and family and say, look, this is what he's doing. Page 84, that's what he does to me. Because I found with my clients that it was hard for them to articulate the experience, to spot and know what was going on in their relationship. Get help, focus on your own psychological issues.
If your mate or your partner says, we don't have a problem, everything's just fine, what does the person do then? Do you have to leave? Is that your only option?
Well, that's a great point, because often the person who's being controlling, they don't see it as abuse. They feel justified, and it's very hard. It's almost like they live in an inner world where the truth doesn't matter. And so it's very difficult, but there is the first line of treatment for male abusers, women can be abusive too certainly, is a support group with other males, their peers, to hold them accountable for what they're doing, and that can be very effective.
I know that you have a lot more to say in your book, and I want folks to know where they can get that. Can they pick that up on Amazon or any of the bookstores?
Yes, it's in bookstores, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. My website is heartwisecounseling.com. It can be purchased as well. And I really wrote the book to help people, so they, you know, you have to be able to know what the problem is before you can treat it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, pick up that book if you find yourself in this relationship she just mentioned, or you have a loved one who you're noticing this and maybe they're not seeing it. Perhaps they could learn something from this as well. Title of the book is From Charm to Harm. Amy Lewis Bear is the author. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks.